After my first husband and I separated, he left the kids and me with no money, and so between the food bank at my son's school and a generous donation from someone in this church, the boys and I were able to have enough to eat every month until we got our feet back on the ground.
When I was living in New York, doing the person who moves to New York after college thing, I was in and out of having a job for most of the year and a half I was there. During one particular time, I remember I didn't have any money in the bank, but I had just enough food in the fridge to make one really big casserole. And I knew I had a paycheck for like $100 coming next week. So I made a really big casserole and ate it for a week.
I think Ben and I, my husband, we had been married for about like 6 months. We got married in September, and then in April I was in a car accident. I was totally fine, but my car was not. And at that time I was in grad school. He was working a minimum S paying job. And with my car being totaled, we weren't really sure how we would be able to afford a car that would actually get me where I needed to go for school and such. And at that time I was actually nannying for a family that happened to be the main car dealers in our area in Wisconsin. He gave us a incredibly generous gift of taking money off so we could actually afford it. And yeah, it just seemed like quite the gift to have been working for them at the time, but also for their generosity to give in that way that we truly didn't expect.
When I was a child, I thought it was communion wafers. You know how the little stuff with no flavor that the next day's like leather? That's what I thought manna was. And nowadays I think manna is what we receive as additional energy from the Christian community. And that makes us real Christians, is that spirit.
When I was a kid, I thought manna was a feast. My parents were mission coworkers in the South Pacific, and so we had pig feasts a lot there, and I was only 3 when we moved. So that's what I grew up thinking manna was a big South Pacific feast. Through the years, I've learned that manna is actually an excretion from a scale insect on the tamarisk tree, which is found in the Middle East. And figuratively, I feel like manna is what you can find and use to get yourself through a time of hardship.
When I was a kid, whenever I heard that story, I always thought of manna as these like white, translucent wafers, kind of like vanilla wafers, but like not, that just were falling from the sky. So that's kind of how I viewed it when I was a kid. Admittedly, I had to Google what manna was before this, and that didn't really help me. It sounded kind of the same as when I was a kid, in all honesty, but figuratively, I think thinking about the way that manna, as I conceptualize it now, is a gift we don't deserve from God, that shows up right when we need it in a way that we can't really expect.